Welcome. I'm Danielle Sally.
And I'm Eva Fusa.
And you're listening to Ghost Boss, stories about the freelance afterlife. Hey, ghosties.
Hey.
Hey, how are you doing, Eva?
Is that better?
That is better. We did a take before, and I was like, I didn't like your hi.
She didn't say it with her words. She said it with her face.
Oh, she could tell.
I got it.
She could tell.
We're doing all right. We're back.
Again.
I still feel a little rusty. I'm working out.
Yeah, that's the funny part. After we recorded that first episode, I just looked at Eva like, we're real rusty.
Yeah.
You could tell we were out of the studio for too long.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, by mid-season, we're going to be great.
And then it'll wrap up and we'll be gone all summer.
And then we'll forget it all again.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
So, hey.
Hi.
What's up?
I'm doing well.
No. Well, actually, I was trying to use that as a transition.
Oh, we aren't going to ramble?
Well, we are going to ramble, but like, what's up makes me think of Super Bowl ads because do you remember the What's Up frogs?
But that was a reach. But yes.
That was a Super Bowl
you need
commercial.
I would have gotten it if you were like, what's up?
I'm not committing to the bit.
You won't
ever.
put that on.
I will never commit to the bit.
I will go, what's up?
Absolutely not.
I would have got it then. You were just like, what's up?
What's up?
Why is that? How would I get that?
I don't know.
All right.
The jokes are really great when I have to explain them.
Super Bowl.
Fire.
All right.
Y'all stop listening because we're going to keep recording and we should be fired.
And this episode will come out after the Super Bowl airs.
That's the whole point.
But we have not we've recorded it early, so we have not seen the ads. So what commercials do you most look forward to?
Well, so here's the interesting thing about the Super Bowl is I don't watch football.
I mean, it's there.
Sure.
And then, it's on during the ads.
Right. I only watch the Super Bowl, number one, for ads.
Yes.
And number two, typically to cheer against a team.
Oh. Why was halftime not in that?
Oh, yeah, sure. Who's playing halftime this year?
Like, I know. I'll find out the day of.
Hold on. Let's look it up. It must not be somebody I listen to because I feel
like I do know. I can't remember.
I watched the year that.
Oh, yeah. Usher was last year and we got real into that.
I watched the year with Kendrick Lamar because I listened to Kendrick Lamar. So I knew, like, let's see.
I feel like I remember. You're going to say it and I'm going to be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, he's playing again. Well, there you go.
Kendrick Lamar?
I believe so.
Shut up.
Is that what that says?
That's not what I was thinking.
Upcoming halftime show. Oh, so it is Kendrick Lamar. Well, I guess I should know that. I'm bad at this. I don't do the sports.
That register. I don't sports.
I don't. It's fine. I love that for you. It's not a thing for me. Now, I will entertain college football season because I like to socialize.
Yeah.
I do not care about the sports. I do hate Clemson, so I will.
So there's that.
I will cheer against them.
Yeah.
I am going to say this. I don't care about.
Let's say it.
I'm going to say it. I have watched the Super Bowl for the last few years and cheered against Kansas City.
Well, I feel like that's obvious
Their
reasons
mascot
why.
is wildly inappropriate.
Right.
It's inappropriate, and I will always cheer against them because of it.
Yeah, I feel like that should have been a given.
That's not a hot take.
Unless you're listening for the first time and guess
unaware.
What? You are unaware that Eva is Native American.
I have notes. So typically, I kind of watch I don't understand football. I don't watch enough. I don't care. So I end up watching it kind of for the commercials, kind of for the halftime show. But then I just let the people tell me the commercials I was supposed to watch later. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, and I can't watch all of them because at some point I'm just going to be tuned off. Wait,
unless you treat the game like the commercial breaks.
Well, there was one year that I think it was like my daughter was 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. So like distractions, right? And we had to keep fast forwarding. So I remember just fast forwarding through the game so I could watch all the commercials.
I guess I can do that this year. I don't know that I did anything last year. 2 years ago, we went to somebody's house. The other problem is people will invite me over to watch the game. But because it's on late her for the East Coast so that it's not on at like 10 a.m. on the West Coast.
Right.
Which I get it.
Yeah.
It's too late for me.
I still get mad about it.
It's a Sunday. I have to get my kid to school in the morning. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I don't understand why more companies don't just have off Monday after the Super Bowl. It is a big enough event that I feel that Monday should just be a holiday.
I watch 90 Day Fiancé.
Yes.
The only Sunday that it will not air all year is Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah.
But also
it's
totally
because of
makes
viewership
sense.
rates. No, I get it. But that's how influential the Super Bowl is, that the biggest franchise on TLC will not air on that Sunday.
Well, think about how many people watch that truly do not care about football.
No, but they're going to go to, like, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl to some extent.
I'm absolutely going to watch it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
It also, Super Bowl makes me think of like tailgate food. Maybe I'll have a little tailgate with my son.
That's fun.
Yeah.
A little tailgate.
Yeah.
Cheer for the Eagles.
Yeah. Go Birds. I do know that much.
Go Birds.
I do know that much. And I've been to Philly several times and it's delightful.
There you go.
I don't know anything about Kansas City.
It's fine. My dad's from Philly, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, go Birds. Go Birds. So, yeah. But talking about the Super Bowl always makes me think, about the advertising that you see at the Super Bowl. And it's like hyper advertising, right? Like
right.
People put so much money into those spots, and like just buying the airtime is insane.
Yes.
But between that and judging the American Advertising Awards, I did 3 shows this year. I think you did 1 or 2.
I kept it to 2.
You did 2.
Was it just 2? Yes.
You did 2.
I was really proud of myself for not overcommitting.
Good job. You did 2. I did 3 this year. 1 had a very large window.
Oh,
I didn't know that my January was going to be my January. Anyways, but I've judged. It's funny. Have you ever gone into the portal and gone to change your judging club?
Yeah.
And seen a list of everywhere you judge?
Yeah.
It's fun.
I enjoy that because I'm like, it reminds me of all the different markets.
Yeah.
And because each market you judge, like I remember judging a club in the Midwest. And I honestly felt like at the end of it, I was confident that the use of serif fonts was not allowed in the Midwest because the amount of sans serif fonts that were used, I'm like, it fit. It was the right font choice.
Sense.
It was all of them were the right font choices. But I was like, man, I'd love to get a client there and just go crazy with a serif. But I always enjoy that, how judging the different markets and what that looks like. I can't go into detail, but I was judging Louisville this year, and they tell you too when we're like, it's going to be a lot of bourbon and a lot of horses, and that is a fun show to judge and go through all of their entries. But something I always love is just like really getting to kind of experience the different markets through the advertising that is created in those markets.
Yes. My first show I ever judged was New Orleans.
Yeah. That would have been a great start.
What a way to start.
Yeah.
It was fantastic because not only do I love New Orleans as a city, but so many of the brands and personalities that was in the creative, like I was familiar with, which was really cool. And it's also interesting to see how people differentiate themselves within a market. And so things that might feel played out outside of a specific market is actually totally appropriate there.
Right.
Like so much of the Mardi Gras stuff for their show, and this was a couple years ago, so this is not like a recent thing, but so much of their Mardi Gras stuff was just so interesting to look at. And I'm like, I don't know that would have landed the same way.
Right.
Or it's just polished differently, like coming from that market versus when we try to replicate the same thing somewhere else. So, so I've done New Orleans. I did Spokane a couple years ago.
Yeah, that would have been a cool one.
Maybe it was last year.
I haven't done too many out west.
Yeah. Spokane was interesting. They had a bunch of Native American stuff.
Yeah.
And I just went on and on and on and on and on about how cool it was.
Right.
Because a lot of Native American representation can feel very traditional. Like you can probably guess the color palette that most people use, right? Like it's the colors of the medicine wheel. So it's like yellow and red and black and white. And maybe we throw some turquoise in there because we all have turquoise. We don't all have turquoise. But, you know, people, or they think like, they think a lot, if like particularly out west, if you're like looking at some of the indigenous representation, like in Wyoming, or like you see like parts of Colorado, like you get that parts of the country and like the totem pole representation. It's almost like this like mid 50s. It makes me feel like Palm Springs, California's take on Native American. And I know it's tradition, but you know what I'm talking about. Yes. Savannah's got a hotel that right when you get off the interstate, it's got a big Thunderbird on it.
Yeah, the Thunderbird Hotel.
The Thunderbird Hotel. I have notes on the branding, but the Thunderbird Hotel is this like very specific. When I say that, you know exactly the branding I'm talking about. And you see a lot of that as you go further west.
I haven't lived in Savannah since early 2000s, and I instantly remember what you're talking about.
It's right there. And it looks like Nikki Villagomez, who's a designer, she came and spoke at AAF Midlands last year, but she used to be the South Carolina AIGH chapter president. She's done a lot of stuff. But anyways, what made me think of it is that she was in Cheyenne recently, I think, and posted a bunch of pictures. And I was like, oh, it's like the Thunderbird Motel design, which is like, you see a lot of that too, like in Oregon. And so it's like a very specific, like Western indigenous vibe. And so when you think about Native American, like design, so many people think about that, or like the stuff you find on blankets. Right. Like those sorts of patterns, or something you saw in Yellowstone, and that's about it. And but this particular set of creative that came out of Spokane, like, was just a really modern, fresh take on indigenous design. Yeah, and it was beautiful.
That's awesome.
It was stunning. It was stunning. So I think it's cool. I like to see stuff in other markets, and then it's interesting. You end up figuring out like certain places are headquartered somewhere, or their agency.
Oh yeah, because sometimes you'll see this ad that you saw play out on national TV, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that they were based in the city.
I'm like, oh, I'm judging this like, Fisher Price must be based there. Also, Eva learns that I'm going to third person here now. Eva learns that she doesn't know anything about geography.
Why is that?
Well, so speaking of things out west, I judged Topeka this year.
You didn't know where they were, did you?
No, I did.
Okay.
They're in Kansas.
Okay, good job. Okay, so
that part I know.
It's in the middle.
I know.
Did you not know?
Yeah, I did. Can you let me do what I got to do? So I'm judging Topeka, and like all this, I keep seeing all this stuff for Colorado, and I'm like, why is there all this stuff for Colorado? And then I look on a map, I'm like, they touch each other, Eva.
To be fair, I'm going to give you that.
Kansas and Colorado touch each other.
Yes.
Did you know that? Am I just dumb?
No. Here's the thing with out west, especially when you've lived on the east, I feel like
anything past the Mississippi, I'm like, I don't know what it is till we get to Nevada.
Our states over here are so small.
Yeah.
So out west, they're so large, and most of them are just kind of squares. So you kind of forget where everything's located.
I took a map test the other day just for fun.
Just for fun?
And it was like, which one's Colorado and which one's Wyoming? I was like, they're both rectangles.
I guess Colorado is farther south. Is that the only difference?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
No, that is correct. But this was not one where you pick them off the map just based on shape.
A good portion of my life was in West Virginia, which is a very clearly defined, unique shape. So I get
borders out here.
So thrown off by these squares.
I call them square states. I don't know what to do in a square state.
Yeah. Well, no, Colorado. I was going to say they're flat too, but they're not. They actually have mountain ranges out there. So memorable design.
Oh, Spokane. That's how we got here.
Yes, that's how we got here.
Back. But anyway, so now that we've talked about nothing and how I'm confused when I'm in a really flat place.
I don't know how we got to flatland, but here we are.
Doing great. The Super Bowl.
Yes.
Makes me think, and judging the American Advertising Awards, both make me think about what is memorable design? Because when I'm judging the American Advertising Awards, and even when I'm looking at stuff for the Super Bowl, or anytime I'm really like critiquing work, there's this very specific like line, and we've talked a little bit about it before, that like really, really good work can still just be good work.
Yeah.
And it can be incredible Photoshop work or interesting cinematography or whatever. But we are in such a hyper connected and overly like saturated digital world. And I think this was probably true prior to this because it's just we're seeing ads differently. I think newspaper ads versus like Instagram ads, like we would be saying the same thing just several decades apart.
Right.
That the litmus test for me for great advertising or great design or whatever is just, will I remember this later?
Yes.
And it's interesting because I see so much stuff during the Super Bowl commercials and things like that. I'm like, that's incredible work.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'll remember it later.
Well, especially when we do the recaps and then I'll be listening back. I'm like, I don't even know what ad they're talking about. But the ones I remember, I still think about them to this day.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what makes it so memorable is they found a way to strike human emotion out of a commercial. And whether they did that through humor or they did that through tears and sadness, they found a way to make you emotionally attached to this 15, 30-second TV spot.
Right.
Because even when I'm judging, if it sparks an emotion out of me, I'm going to remember that piece more than all the ones that didn't.
Right.
Because I was judging this weekend and one of them just made me start bawling.
Oh,
I was crying.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon for me during judging a good competition, that one might spark some tears from me.
Yeah.
And guess what? I scored that pretty high.
Yeah.
Because it brings an emotion out of you. And I think there's so much to say about advertising because it could just be the simple, like, what's your call to action? Let's get the point across, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And make it like figure out what you want to be your measurable goal.
Yeah.
Or you could take it this route where what emotion are we trying to spark out of the person watching this?
Right.
To get them to remember our brand.
Right.
Way past when this airs.
The touch point. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, a lot of what makes an ad memorable really does come down to the emotion that I'm feeling while watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you say that because I think when people hear the word emotion, they probably think like feels, right?
Right.
Like it makes you cry. It makes you like that's kind of the space. But, and that's certainly true, but it also can pull on nostalgia in a very specific way.
Yeah.
So I judged some pieces recently that when I first saw them, I was like, oh God, this looks like a website from the 90s. And then I kept scrolling to look at the rest of the assets and I'm like, oh, that's
supposed
to. It was all pop-up ads and stickers and, you know, wrestling references and Surge soda and like all this kind of like stuff. And like, it was so overdone and it was so heavy handed and it was just like in your face, but it gave me this like nostalgic feel. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to remember this.
Exactly.
I'm going to remember this.
Yeah.
Because of just how like wild it is.
Yeah.
And so then that got me thinking about some other stuff that I've judged in the past, which then gets me thinking about like a larger like design principle that I try to explain to people, particularly outside of design or like whether they be clients or just people I'm talking to in conversation, that if you're going to create tension, right? And I would argue that making me go, ooh, when I look at your stuff is creating tension, right? It's pushing me back a little bit to pull me right back in. You have to do it intentionally. So if they hadn't committed to the bit, right?
Right.
And they just like kind of softly gone in, it would have never landed.
No.
Because it would have looked like poor design.
Yeah. And
so like when I explain to people, I'm like, you can do some interesting design stuff that looks weird. You can do some stuff where the proportions are wild and they don't make any sense, but you have to do it in a way that you can tell that it was done on purpose.
Yeah.
Because if the proportions are just a little off, well, now it looks like a mistake. But if the proportions are like wildly off, well, now this looks like an intentional decision that you made. And just like I saw some typography recently that there was like a shape over the edge of like a word, and it cut just a little sliver off the letter. And I was like, I hate it, because if you just made that like shape 20% bigger and cut into that word even more, it would have looked intentional.
Right.
It doesn't look intentional though.
Yes.
It just cut the edge off, and I'm dying, and I'm sure nobody else cares, but I'm dying every time I see it. I'm like, I just want you to fix this. So yeah, I think memorable and evoking emotion can have a lot of range.
Well, too, especially Super Bowl, because the emotion that most of the brands that want to buy a Super Bowl spot go straight to laughter and humor. And those are usually the ones that usually end up on the top 10 list.
Right.
And then you'll have like one or two that made everyone start sobbing.
Right.
So I think I don't know. I also just want to be laughing the whole time. But I'll appreciate Google's going to probably have something that makes me cry every time.
It's always, and like, it's always like some of the main players always, but there's always like a wild card or two that I'm like, hey, look at you.
Good for you getting out there.
Yeah. So it's just always really interesting. Like, I don't know, like I don't always know how to explain it to people, like how like to identify memorable design. But I guarantee the things that you and I would pick out to the trained eye would actually have a decent amount of overlap to the general population.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's some stuff that I think you and I would pick out as memorable that maybe other people wouldn't, not necessarily in Super Bowl ads, but I'm sure there's some weird, obscure design thing that like I get too excited about a serif or something. I'm sure I've done it to you.
Not in the Midwest.
Yeah. There's a picture of me the one time I was in St. Louis, and I'm standing next to the Ark. Mm-hmm. The monument to Western expansion. As an indigenous person, I have to side eye it. But also, I have notes. Why does the West start not in the middle?
Why does it start in Ohio? No.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you're not even in the middle.
Yeah. I don't really know why Ohio's Midwest. I think it's more of a culture thing. Because it's definitely not the location.
I don't understand. Well, it's also people like to fight with me about what the South is.
Yeah.
If I have to tell one more person that Virginia is the South, it was the capital of the Confederacy. I do not understand what we're talking about.
Why would anyone say it's not?
Lots of people tell me that Virginia is not the South. Lots of people.
Huh.
So many people. I acknowledge it is not the deep South. It is not. And it's got some mid-Atlantic vibes because it's so close to Maryland. I get that.
I mean, it's definitely mid-Atlantic.
But it is the South.
Because it is mid-Atlantic, but it's as far as the South as a whole, it's definitely the South.
It is the South. They serve grits and fried green tomatoes there. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
People also try to tell me that Arkansas is not the South. It is.
Nothing's more South than Arkansas.
Would you like to meet my mother?
That's deep South, isn't it?
I would not call it deep South. It has some more
South?
Midwest
I have no idea.
feels. In my opinion, deep South is like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. Yeah.
Oh.
Bible Belt, deep South.
Oh, I was not even considering Carolinas in deep South.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was those lower states because they're deep.
No, it's more like the South.
Because I thought it was like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah.
Those guys.
South Carolina is the deep South the way Georgia is. Yeah.
I don't know if I want that.
Well, this, I mean, this is not the podcast to get into it, but there's a lot of cultural and historical stuff that I don't know anybody who wouldn't call South Carolina the deep South. Okay.
I've never heard it called the
entire transatlantic slave trade started here, which is a pretty big part.
Yeah, I guess I don't think about how people are usually saying deep South.
I can say
South Carolina, just not North Carolina.
Okay, I will give you North Carolina now. Maybe North Carolina now. Sure.
There's some maps that have it like kind of included.
Sure. Parts of North Carolina. Sure.
All right. Let's get on topic.
All right.
Because I think
All right. I have an idea.
Okay.
This is coming out the Tuesday after the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, too bad we're recording early. What if we record a quick little 10-minute amendment, an add-on to this episode?
Okay. I'm down for this.
Where we talk about our favorite Super Bowl ads.
An extra treat for the listeners.
Yes. And then when we can, oh God, help me if you want me to try to do it from home.
We might have to.
Okay.
So if the audio changes, it's because Eva caved.
But I think it would be cool because we've talked about a lot of stuff here. So then it would be cool to jump to what were.
I'm going to love it if we transition to our our cut with the Super Bowl, and we're both like, those sucked.
Yeah. Well, you don't let me be grumpy about too many brands on the pod.
We kind of were
Also-
rude about something on the podcast once, and we found out we were closer to them than we thought.
Oh yeah.
So we need to be, we do try to make a point to be cautious, because again, it's one of those things that we aren't in the room always with the client and the direction that's given to the people making the art.
I don't want to go into detail. However, in our defense, we did not criticize the actual creative
No, it actually,
that made what we're talking about.
I felt like it was a beautifully done piece.
Yes.
It's just,
We talked about the brief.
yes.
All right, y'all. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Yep. No buys. We're not doing the buys.
Oh, yeah. So now we're just going to future. Wayne's World.
Stop it. Okay. Bye. We'll talk in a minute.
Bye. Hey, ghosties, we're back.
We're back. You don't know that it's a whole week later, but you don't know that. It should only be a couple seconds what you're listening to.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah. It's magic.
Oh, I love it. But we wanted to hop on here and give you our quick recap of the Super Bowl, because we've recorded our episode before the Super Bowl aired.
Right.
And now the Super Bowl has aired. So we hopped on. It's Monday morning. You'll hear all this on Tuesday, but we wanted to make sure we voiced our opinions, of course.
Yes.
So Eva,
Yeah.
what were some of your thoughts on the spots? What were some maybe that stood out to you?
Yeah, I did not admittedly see them all. I had to put my son to bed after halftime, so I missed a chunk there after halftime. But I watched everything from the beginning to halftime, and then I watched most of the third quarter and all the fourth quarter. So I saw a lot, but I didn't see them all.
I would say I was taking notes, and per usual, because you start to lose people in the second half. But I felt like all the much stronger spots were in the first half anyway.
Okay, so that wasn't just because, like, I have several notes and it's like everything in the beginning. And I was like, is it just because that's the only time I was paying attention?
No, I think because you start to lose the parents.
Yeah. Although this year it was over, I think by 10:30 Eastern time. I remember one year it was like midnight because I kept going
I actually
overtime.
saw the whole thing. It was great.
Yeah. I stayed up. I was working until like 1 a.m. last night. So
Yeah.
one way or another. Yeah. Okay. So I had, these are my notes. I'm just going to read my notes. Yeah.
Do it.
Cancer knock you out has me crying emoji. That's what it says. The seal one made me feel weird.
Yeah. What? No, I didn't need that.
Instacart. And then I just wrote an exclamation point because I think I liked all the little, like,
All the
little things.
Yeah.
The characters are cool. The sloth commercial gets me, especially right now on a Monday morning when I went to bed at 1 a.m. Here's a great note. I
appreciate Peloton kind of came out with a rebuttal for that one and was like,
oh, yeah.
You're no case of the Mondays, no excuses. I was like, honestly, Peloton, I appreciate you for this. Way to hit back.
That's a vibe.
Okay, go ahead.
I wrote this. I will never buy anything from Coffee Mate ever again because of the tongue commercial.
You know what? I think I totally missed that one, or I just wasn't paying attention. So I don't know.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
it was weird.
I missed it completely.
It was weird. Breast cancer commercial I thought was great.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Definitely, I put that as one of my most memorable ones for sure.
Yeah. And then my last one, and I have a lot to unpack with this, so I'll mention this, but then let's go to your list and then we'll come back to my thoughts on this. But I have a lot of things to say about the Hims and Her commercial, not only about the content and how it was presented, but I want to know who got that music approved. I want to know who got that song approved.
That was not the direction I thought you were going with that, but
if you're familiar with, and I'll unpack in a minute, but if you're
funny is like, I did not know which way they were going with that spot because part of it was the music and I just didn't know. I didn't know. I was not expecting it to be Him and Hers at all.
Yeah. But we'll come back to that. So what's your quick list?
I had several that were like near the top that were like, I just want to call out because I really appreciate the Mick Ultra spot with Catherine O'Hara.
Oh yeah,
that
was good.
Like that was just so, I love her. Like, we're professional athletes. She's like, ooh, what sport?
That was good. Yeah.
I like Tillman's take with Harry Met Sally. That was funny. I really appreciate Homes.com. I don't know. I just love this.
That was funny.
The Reese's one, the lava, I normally don't go with like super cheesy funny, but that one made me laugh out loud. So those weren't like my favorites, but those I just wanted to give like honorable mentions to.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a popular opinion, but one that I felt like I just truly appreciated the concept was open AIs for ChatGPT. Because it was all done with like the art direction behind it was just, and the concept was just very smart. And it got to a point, the whole thing was like pointillism. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's all circles, all of it's circles. And then it got to one point, I'm like, okay, it has to have something to do with texting or typing. And then you see the copy and it says, I don't have it. Anyway, so then it said like the starting point. And then you're like, yes, this is okay. So I've really liked it. I don't think it was a big hit, but I think it stood out to me because throughout all the noise of Super Bowl, it was kind of nice to see a well art directed piece that was only black and white. So I appreciated that. Caught my full attention and I feel like was the most memorable was I'm going to say this wrong. Novartis, which was what you were mentioning with Your Attention Please with the breast cancer awareness. I thought that was definitely most memorable, most powerful message I put was Nike. You can't win, so win. I really like that one beyond. And I appreciate about that. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, a side note on that, I was watching that. I loved it too, but my son watched it and he doesn't always understand like sarcasm or like
no, girl,
he didn't get the point. Okay, yes.
Because what I appreciated during that moment was I was watching it with my 10-year-old daughter and it ends and she goes, I don't get it. And
my 7-year-old said the same. Yeah.
I kind of love the innocence of the child that you don't get it. And, my hope is she never has to get it. Of course, I don't, especially in today's climate. I don't know if that will ever be the case, unfortunately, for her generation as well. But I love the innocence that she just didn't get it. And because it very much is a reality for all of us. So I just thought it was definitely the most powerful message that I took out of the Super Bowl. And then the last one was the NFL with 72 and Sunny. I'm just always going to like fangirl on them, but they did the spot for flag football and it was
the community one, like where they're walking down the street at the end.
The one where it was kind of like an 80s film almost. And the girl is the captain of the flag football team. And you have this guy, they're like, you're going to play Brad. And they
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, go back and watch it because that
I'll have to look it up. Yeah,
my top.
I'm sure I missed some good ones. Yeah. Oh, cool.
And then you know what? They always do these trailers before the Super Bowl, and sometimes I'm like, I get interested, and sometimes I don't. And then sometimes they air it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if that was worth a trailer, but sure. The only one that I felt like I really appreciated was, and this one was in the second half, but it was the Stella Artois one with David Beckham, and
that one was hilarious. I
wrote that one followed through because sometimes I get frustrated that they do teasers and there's no follow through, but like to throw Matt Damon into the mix.
Oh, it was great.
With the shades of Ben Affleck. It was genius.
Oh, it was wonderful. I'm Dave, not David. I thought that was really funny. Like, that was good. That was good.
For sure.
I do always like the Dunkin' commercials. Like, I mean, they're par for the course now for the Super Bowl, but I do
I don't know, something about them Boston accents coming out in a Dunkin' commercial. Like it gets me every year.
I think for me, last year's like my top spot was the Dunkin' ad. So for me, like you always have to figure out how do you beat last year? And I did not feel like they beat last year. So I'm like, unfortunately, it's still a great spot. Like all of these were good spots. It's just the fact that like you're going in with such a critical eye and you're like, but it didn't top last year's.
I really liked at the end. I mean, the whole thing was funny, and I liked the Jay and Silent Bob cameo, and like, but my favorite part at the end was Jeremy Strong like being in the coffee because he's like a notorious method actor, and like he was on Succession, and like people talk about how intense he was, and so like I thought that was really really funny. But I mean,
to be fair, to me, I feel like a lot of what we talk about is like a lot of times nostalgia comes into play with most impactful.
Yeah.
So for me, in my high school days, very much all in on boy bands. So that's why last year's hit home more for me. But like, if you weren't into boy bands, then maybe this year was your Dunkin' ad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, Jay and Silent Bob. Like, right? It's a different touch of nostalgia. And then to bring in like somebody who's more well-known now. So yeah, I think it just had a different touch point for me.
What was cool though, I always keep an eye on Adweek's Instagram and vote to see where everyone's kind of landing. And it seemed like overwhelmingly there were more positives than negatives this year with as far as like ads people like. So I thought that was great. And truthfully, all of these ads are great. Right? It's just this is the big game. So you're against your competitors. And so it's tough. Yeah. Like you could have the best spot ever, but like it's a sea of great spots. So then one I appreciated was right before the halftime show with Angel Soft. And all it was for a bathroom break. And I just thought for Angel Soft, a toilet paper brand, to be like, you know what? Let's just give people a bathroom break because you have people that watch, like you're here to watch the game, but we're also actively watching the commercials. So they're not getting that break like they normally would. I mean, I go to the bathroom break game, but it was actually a really good game. So I needed that bathroom break.
Yeah, I usually take my bathroom breaks during the game because I don't do the sports balls, but I am not invested in anything football related, but the amount of times I yelled "Go Birds" last night, like I had any idea what was going on.
It was just a great game. I mean, it was a good game. Not if you're a Kansas City fan, but it was a great game for the rest of us.
Yeah. But no, I actually watched most of the game, which was good. And then I loved the halftime show. I think there's a lot of nuance in it that like not everybody really fully got, but like I picked up on a lot of nuance. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan.
Yeah.
And for him he played a couple years ago too. So to have played so close together and do like such an impactful like performance. There was definitely some political messaging in there. But like, I thought I really liked just like tight, synchronized choreography. Like it wasn't a flashy show.
Exactly.
And I thought that was cool.
And that's what I just zeroed in on was I just appreciated so much. Like I want to meet whoever directed this because it was just so well done. And I kind of appreciated that it wasn't the flashy over the top
800 drones and all that stuff. Yeah.
Like it just felt very authentic and I appreciated that. I think a lot of people, you either got it or you didn't get it. I think a lot of people want like the surface level performance from Super Bowl. Like they just want, but it's the Super Bowl. It is literally the hardest audience to perform for because this is truly general public. It is the most viewed sporting event in America. You are not going to hit it home for everyone, but I think it was just a fantastic halftime performance. And you're just, like I said, you're not going to hit it home for everyone. Who cares?
Yeah, for sure. But part of what I liked about it was like in the choreography and stuff I just feel like in today's like performance culture, it is so easy just to like, not easy, but like people want to put the flashy stuff in. So they want to do the fireworks and the drones and like all these big dramatic costume changes. And like even his outfit, I thought was like, first off, like, every detail of that was thought about by several like creatives and like brand managers and stuff like that. I loved his jeans, and then everybody online this morning was like, "Oh my god, his jeans!" I was like, "I know, right?" And so,
I'm glad I also was like, "These are just some great jeans."
right. But I like,
why am I even thinking about this at the moment?
yeah. I like the simplicity of his outfit. I felt the same way in his music video. I feel the same way about the album art that they've used for his most recent album. Like, it looks like it looks curated, but not like overdone. And like, I like that it, I don't know. I just, the simplicity of it, but then there's complexity behind it, not just in his outfit, not just in the performance, not just in the choreography, but that's how it felt simple.
Yeah.
But it's not. And that's what I loved about it. I thought
also,
it was cool.
As a tennis player, I was all in for the Serena cameo. It caught me off guard because I was like, they showed her for like a hot second. And then it took me a double take and I was like, was that Serena? And then they went back to her. I was like, this definitely looks like Serena. It was great. It was perfect.
Yeah. No, I thought halftime was great. So that's my only big note. So now that we've run through kind of all of it, I'd like to circle back on this Hims and Hers commercial.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
If the people listening are not familiar, the song that they used is a song called "This Is America" by Childish Gambino, and it is a comment on gun culture in America is the easiest way for me to, and a comment on race relations in America. And like, the video is really complex, and there's a reference to a lot of important cultural events. There's a reference to the Charleston Nine in the video. Like, it's a very intense video, and to use it for a
weight loss felt off
in this culture right now. And like, and I'm not going to get, overly political on the podcast, but like, you have to acknowledge that we are in a highly sensitive political moment right now, regardless of how you feel. And to choose that song and then to open with like, obesity is like, one of the biggest like health crisis in the country, which it is. And then to talk about how like, the systems aren't always set up to keep us healthy, which is true. And the commercialization of food, like, I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So maybe we're going to bring it all together. And no, it's selling like off-label Ozempic. It's just unregulated Ozempic is what it is. I
don't know. Again, I think I said it. I was just wildly surprised it ended up being a Him and Hers commercial because I thought it was going to be this much more powerful take. And then they started talking about weight loss and was like, where is this going?
Where are we going?
Where are we going with this?
Where are we going?
I just felt like it just missed the mark. That. I was watching it. I don't know if I was watching it for the right reasons.
Well, and so I got on TikTok this morning. I haven't been on long because I was up till 1 and then we're recording at 9 and like, it's been a morning. But in the first like 5 or 6 videos that I had a chance to look at on TikTok, their commentary is flying about that.
Oh, I bet.
Commercial. Yeah. Not in a good way. And the first thing I picked up on was I thought the music was inappropriate. That is the secondary thing that people are talking about. They're overall talking about the tone, because like the tone that they take initially does not seem like they're going to go sell you a weight loss medication. And like, I'm not here to knock weight loss medication. I know that that's been instrumental in a lot of people's lives, a lot of people that I know, and I know that like that has a place. And like, I get all of that. Like, that's not what I'm here to comment on. It's just the narrative. The narrative didn't feel right, and the tone felt odd, and the music choice felt a little, I'm going to say, insulting, in my opinion, to use that such important piece of music in this time for something like that. Just didn't feel right to me.
I wonder if the artist, a Childish Gambino, has actually pushed out a statement on using the music. Yeah. They had to allow it, right?
Oh, yeah. Nothing's going to run on at the Super Bowl unauthorized. Right. And that was another thing I was kind of surprised about. So as of this morning, I've not seen anything out there, but there was an interesting article on Ad Meter, which is USA Today's like advertising like column. And it said that for weeks now, drug industry groups have been trying to get the ad not to run in general because they thought that it was misleading the marketing as far as like the medic, like it was misleading from a pharmaceutical standpoint, but it ended up running anyway. So I don't know. I mean, I also was a little disappointed because I was excited to potentially see a commercial that wanted to have a real conversation. And I say that as somebody who lives in a body that is not like, a standard size 2, and that's fine. And I'm healthy and I'm happy and I'm comfortable with who I am. But like, when you don't have like an atypical body, the world treats you differently. Healthcare treats you differently.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things are different for you in this world. And the initial tone, I was like, oh, maybe we're going to have a real conversation about that and not just around, because like I think the body positivity conversations are really important and that's great. But it's like, no, maybe we're going to have like a healthcare conversation. And then they're just going to try to sell me weight loss drugs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It missed the mark for sure.
It did. And I really initially, when I was writing these down, I was like, I don't want to like, go into a lot on the podcast about things that I don't like. I might just be like, yeah, that tongue thing was weird and I'm going to move on. But I do feel like this scenario required a little bit more of a conversation about, it's not just like, I think the seal thing is weird. I stand by that, but I'm not going to unpack it.
Right.
This is a little bit different. Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what people say in the next few days about it, because I'm sure it'll continue to unfold on the best place to talk about these things, social media.
Exactly. We'll hear all about it. I want to just wrap it up with one more statement. I do not need flesh hats on my TV. So I need that to stop. I just want to stop that right now. No more flesh hats.
Did I miss that? What is that?
Lord. Eva, don't look up the flesh hats. That was disturbing.
I'm going to flesh what? Because
hats.
What does that mean?
Exactly. It was so weird. Sorry, maybe that was not the best way to close it out, but I needed to say it.
Oh,
thank you.
Gross. Oh.
And
ew.
On that note, we're gonna end with that. All right, we have a post on our social channel for you to share your favorite Super Bowl spots, and I am curious to see if you all agree with us on ours or if you think we're wrong. All right, we'll be back next week, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Ghost Boss Podcast, and also please like and review us on your favorite podcast app.